Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Las Vegas. This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. 1 full hour of wrestling news, entertainment, and lots of Sin City surprises from inside the squared circle. Now, let's bring on the host. Here is Mark Hoke.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the talk of Las Vegas. And of course, streaming live on that Odyssey app, AUDACY. Go get it, and future generations will thank you for doing so. They would certainly appreciate it. So check it out. Odyssey app, AUDACY. Plenty of unbelievable shows on there, and ours as well. So head on over there right now and get that app in your phone. Oh, my Lord, this is the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment. And we have, oh, my God, just it's not stopping, Stu Myrick. It's not. Just like your great show, Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, never ending.
It doesn't. Pro wrestling never stops. And, boy, we have had a lot of it over the last week or so.
Oh, this has just been nuts. And I was putting the show together here, getting ready for everything that's coming up, and then I'd see, oh, that's happening too. Oh, and that's happening too. This is just going to be an unreal week for pro wrestling fans. I don't think we get a night off, Stu. It's going to be exciting. But the first thing I wanted to get into tonight is, well, you know, I didn't get a chance to talk to you about John Cena being a bad, bad boy. What are your thoughts on the John Cena heel turn when you saw it happen on Saturday Night Elimination Chamber?
I had, so, you had him beat CM Punk in the chamber. So now it's him and Cody at WrestleMania, and Cody comes out and they're doing the whole, it's the two of the biggest baby faces WWE has ever had, and they're looking forward to it and everything. And then here comes The Rock, and here comes Travis Scott, and I'll get into Travis Scott here in just a bit, but so Rock comes down, and Cena's kind of standing back. He's kind of keeping his clearance. So Rock comes in the ring, and Travis Scott comes in the ring. Travis Scott burning sage or whatever. I don't know what he's doing.
Who knows what that was?
And he, basically asked Cody for his answer. And boy, did Cody give it to him. I mean, in no uncertain terms.
Mm-hmm.
Used bad language and everything.
Potty mouth.
And, the crowd erupts. And Cena's going nuts and everything. And Cena comes over and hugs John Cena like, all right, this is going to happen. Then the face that he went from the smiling John Cena to someone that, looked like someone peed his Cheerios. And you see Rock do the throat slash, and then here we go. It was, it was a shocker for sure, because you have someone that is doing their retirement tour. This is this is their final year in the ring in WWE. And now you're going to have him go as a heel. The guy that they would never turn heel. So Cody can't, Cody turns The Rock down, so I guess John Cena is going to be the he's the man up, which okay, makes sense, it's logic, but it's still a shocker. I'm not going to do what everybody else is doing and compare it to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that
in Bash at the Beach, because it's two different generations and it's two different settings. I will say that this is probably a big deal. You got a lot of people that grew up, with the John Cena shirts and rise above hate and hustle loyalty and respect and all this good stuff. And John Cena has flushed all of that in the toilet. So I'm going to say this. I am going to be unpopular.
Go for it.
I'm going to say this.
Go for it, Stu Myrick.
I hate when The Rock inserts himself. The Rock had no business being in this mess. In fact, this could have been done without him. I think that they had a really good plan for WrestleMania, but then The Rock decides he wants to play, and I think it complicates things. I think this story could have been told, and I think it would have been, okay, fine, let Cena win the Chamber. He gets a title match. That match would have been phenomenal, and you didn't have to turn either of them heel. Simply the two faces. It would have been a little like Hogan Rock in WrestleMania 18.
Yeah.
Two faces of two generations. Just now you fast forward to Cena and Rhodes. So I think The Rock, look, and people love to see him around, I guess. I don't. It's like we didn't need it, and it was unnecessary. The story that Travis Scott busted Cody's eardrum, and gave him a black eye. Look, I couldn't care less who Travis Scott is. I hope he gets a receipt.
Oh, he's going to get a receipt.
From somebody. It needs to be from Cody. But yeah, the story's sizzling. I think the story would have sizzled without The Rock's involvement.
I would agree with you to a point. I think I just read a story where The Rock had wanted Cody to go bad, and Cody turned it down. So Cena took the role. And, got to give Cena a lot of credit, because this is going to be such a different thing for him. And, there's a risk for him, getting some backlash. Now, I don't think he's going to finish this run as a heel. I'm sure we may get, Cena Rock coming up, but interesting thoughts there, Stu. Interesting thoughts. There's a lot to come on this. SmackDown on Friday night, we saw Cody come out and he's not happy, and it looked like somebody chewed his face, thanks to Travis Scott's very poorly done hit. But yeah, this is gonna get nasty, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. I don't know.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, I have a feeling that you're going to see just an incredible side to John Cena that we haven't seen, probably ever. He did start out as a heel, but overall, this is going to be pretty spectacular. But yeah, there's a lot of fallout from what John did.
It'll be interesting. First of all, two things. First of all, during Cody's promo on SmackDown, he referenced "Last of My Kind," which, if you've been watching AEW, that's the line his brother's using. Dustin has been calling himself that. So nice callback, from one brother to another. The second one is, okay, what you just said about Cena's not finishing up this year as a heel.
No,
he's going to turn back, which again, that's where this gets a little messy, because, all right, totally different promotion, totally different situation. Hiroshi Tanahashi has declared this year is his final year in the ring in New Japan. You sure as hell not going to turn Hiroshi Tanahashi heel. He's the president of the company, for Christ's sake. John Cena is the face of a generation of wrestling fan in WWE. Whether you want to admit it or not, and to have him now try to get booed, it just, I don't know. It's messy. I could very, very easily see a scenario where somehow he figures out Rock's using them, and maybe they do a Cena Rock. I don't know, at a SummerSlam or maybe in the fall,
like Survivor Series.
Yeah, Survivor could be Survivor.
That would be a great place to do it, I think. So, yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun, and you mentioned about its place in history, and over the past week or so, we've seen the obvious comparisons to Hogan turning at Bash at the Beach and becoming a part of the NWO, and I get it to a point, because obviously there was one of those things that it just jarred everybody. It's the superstar good guy just turning his back on everybody. But I don't know if it's a truly fair comparison, because what Hogan did changed the industry. And, John, this is going to be very temporary. What Hogan did was permanent. That was permanent. And it changed professional wrestling forever. While this is going to be, I think, a really interesting run for John, it's not going to be one that everybody's going to be like, oh my God, the world of professional wrestling was turned upside down forever because of it. So, I don't like that comparison per se. No, but there are some saying, well, look how many people watched it and all that. Well, it's a different world.
Yeah.
Very different world. But they got their mainstream attention from that too.
Sure.
I mean, you and I remember, it was still all over TV, and, we may have communicated a little different way, but we communicated it.
We did. Now, we did not have the internet like what we have now. That was not around in 1996. You didn't, it was just, again, it's hard to compare it because of the time setting of the placement, the story. It was totally different. This isn't John Cena showing up in AEW as a heel, because he pretty much ran his course in WWE. He is still a very popular individual in WWE, at least, well, until he turns heel. Now, of course, he's being booed out of the building. So, yeah, it's. I get how some people want to compare it, but you can't. It's two different scenarios.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the fight that goes on in basketball with LeBron James and Michael Jordan being compared, and there's just no comparison. Totally different eras, of totally different ways the game was played. And no offense, Michael's way better than LeBron, but that's just me.
Well, you can make that argument all throughout sports.
Yeah.
Pick your favorite position. Look, Walter Payton, probably the greatest running back ever. Emmitt Smith still has the rushing title.
There's a lot of
there's all I can we can pull them all. It's and the same thing can be done in wrestling. Like they've been trying to put on the whole greatest of all time with John Cena. Well, it was so funny. I'm walking through the grocery store just up the street from my apartment, and in the little toy aisle, they've got some action figures. And they have two WWE action figures. Sure enough, on the left, Cody Rhodes. On the right, Bruno Sammartino.
Wow, that's something.
They call Madison Square Garden the house that Bruno built, after all. So it's kind of hard to call John Cena the greatest of all time when Bruno held the title for something like 5,000 days. It's a little taken away from history.
Yeah, and of course, there's going to be some big happenings in Madison Square Garden because we have a ton of fallout from other things that happened over the past week in Elimination Chamber as well. Seth and Punk going at it at MSG next week. Boy, does that leave some doors open. It's going to be fascinating. So stick around, everybody. We've got a whole lot more on the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN 101.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Now, let's return to the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
And we are back on the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the talk of Las Vegas, as we roll on here, the best in pro wrestling. And Stu Myrick by my side, having a great time today and just bracing ourselves. It's going to be a big day coming up with AEW Revolution getting ready to hit the boards, and we're going to be heading on down to catch that. At least I will. I guess Stu, you probably won't be there.
No.
I'll
be join it from the confines of the worldwide headquarters of Sports Guys Talking Wrestling in Northwest Austin.
There you go. Sounds like a plan. Well, it is. We have a lot more fallout from what took place over from Elimination Chamber and what happened on Raw and SmackDown too, by the way, because someone came out and said she was a bad girl. But at first, I want to hit this whole thing of what we are kind of pulling away from Elimination Chamber and Raw. What a brawl, by the way. What a brawl between Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and they're going to try and settle this at Madison Square Garden. Stu, I know there's been a lot of talk about triple threat match, but would you rather just see Rollins and Punk go at it at WrestleMania?
Man, that's
I know. See, that's the thing.
Because that'd be an awesome. That's going to be an awesome match in the Garden there for Raw. But at the same time, that feels like it could have been a WrestleMania match. So, I mean, I'm okay with it being on Raw, but because I'm sure they've got some sort of plan in place. Could it be a triple threat? Could they insert somebody else? We'll wait and see. It feels like if you're going to put Punk and Rollins in a steel cage.
Yeah.
Is it a cage match?
Yep.
So that feels like kind of it's going to be hard to come down from something like that. If you want to reboot that for Mania. Okay, well, as what? Are you going to have Rollins and Punk in Hell in a Cell? Are you going to do them in some other, stipulation match? I mean, steel cage match seems like that should be a blow off to a feud. And yet it feels like maybe they got something left.
Like Roman Reigns possibly hopping in the cage and trying to kill them both.
It's possible.
That's that and that actually, you with all the matches that we're starting to see so far, let's say that's the match they're putting together. Is that a night one main event match? boy, I'll tell you, I'd have a hard time not making that a main event on night one.
The problem is, and it's WWE, so they mention the build up to Royal Rumble. The winners of the men's and women's Royal Rumble will main event WrestleMania. Then they said, okay, well, now we got those two matches. The two winners of the two Elimination Chamber matches will get world title matches. You have 2 nights, 2 main events. You can call whatever you want, co-main, whatever. The last match of the night is the main event.
Correct.
Is that?
Mm-hmm.
How can you not have world titles on the line in your main event, whether it's the men's or women's, which right now it looks like Cody and John Cena will be probably the night 2 main event.
Yeah. So
that leaves, in my mind, putting one of the women's titles main event night 1 or do.
See, this is my question. Just as a fan, if I'm picking out some matches here, Jey Uso wrestling Gunther for the world championship, Tiffany Stratton and Flair, and now Bianca Belair and Io Sky. If I get Roman, Punk, and Seth Rollins in a triple threat match, that's my main event. That is the match. That's going to be the match of that night. I mean, I don't see how you could possibly not do that. I understand the stipulation, I'm going to main event WrestleMania. But if that's on the card, doesn't that have to be your night 1 main event?
Well, I mean, the other question I have is, okay, we haven't seen Roman since Royal Rumble. He got his Ulafala back. He's the tribal chief again, and we haven't seen him since. I mean, he was not in the build for Elimination Chamber. They barely mention him because he's the cover for 2K25. So now all of a sudden you're going to insert him into this Punk and Rollins thing.
No, they had the big fight there at the Rumble where Seth destroyed him.
Right, but Roman wasn't at the Rumble or the Chamber.
Yeah, he wasn't at the Chamber.
Yeah, he wasn't at the Chamber. That's what I'm saying. Roman Reigns doing his, part-timer thing. I kind of have a hard time justifying putting him in a match of that kind of magnitude. If for no other reason, then okay, well now you've complicated things again, kind of like with Cena. You're complicated thing by putting Roman in there, where it should have just been Punk and Rollins all along.
Yeah, the road to WrestleMania is very twisted and turny, to say the least. Looks like we're gonna get Drew and Damian Priest duking it out. They went at it again on SmackDown on Friday. But another thing that happened, of course, at the Elimination Chamber was the Jade Cargill attack on Naomi, and Naomi confessed on SmackDown that, yep, she did it. Jade's been holding her back and using Bianca, and I took her out. So I get my Naomi heel turn. I'm excited. I can't wait for that. But yeah, that certainly does make things a little more interesting for Bianca Belair. And you almost got to wonder, Bianca, I don't trust her right now, Stu. Is she acting a little like the deceptive, quiet heel waiting to bring the heat?
I've been saying it for the last several weeks. Now, yes, Naomi admitted to the attack, but the whole Bianca thing just feels like there's something there as far as some sort of heel turn or whatever. Now, you had Io Sky defeat Rhea Ripley to win the women's world title on
A
Raw,
stunner, by the way.
which, okay. And Bianca apparently played into that a little bit. So, do you have that as a triple threat? Does the world title match at Mania become a triple threat with Io, Rhea, and Bianca? And then where does Jade come in, and where does Naomi? It's, again, we got what 5 weeks.
5 weeks, yeah,
until WrestleMania in Las Vegas. There, it's gonna be interesting to see how they pull that off. I would suspect it would be. Well, I think we've the talk around the campfire is it's going to be the triple threat. There would also be Jay Cargill and Naomi, which makes sense. We don't. I mean, we got kind of an explanation why Naomi jealous over Jade and all that good stuff. But I mean, this women's title picture and everything is just
it's crazy.
It's more complicated than the men's.
One thing that I was thinking about with this road to WrestleMania too, last year we kind of had a fairly straightforward path with a lot of people. This year, not so much. I mean, this has been twists and turns as we've gone through it. So hold on to your hats on this one. It's Triple H. Just the one thing that you mentioned though is that don't overcomplicate this thing. And it's not there yet, but there's a possibility we could be kind of skating on some thin ice.
Yeah, I really think there's, and again, I go back to what I said. This is why I didn't want The Rock inserting himself, because he just messed everything up. I think they had a plan, but they had to tear up that plan when he decided he wanted to play. So,
Now, yeah, I mean, I like the story with John Cena, but the thing was that when you put this together now and The Rock kind of jumped in again, I mean, Lord knows they've probably been planning this out for months, but you're right. I mean, it did complicate things, and sending Jey Uso over to take on Gunther really complicated things from where everybody thought it was going to be, and I'm just, I know people are excited about Jey getting his chance, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just, I would have rather seen CM Punk. I might have rather seen John Cena go that direction and take on Gunther and what would have been a generational battle. So I don't know. I think you just got to kind of trust these guys a little bit, let them do their thing, I suppose.
I think Triple H has earned that kind of credit to where I hate when I hear it, but gotta wait and see how it develops.
Yeah. And by the way, one other development we didn't get to mention was LA Knight is the new United States champion, knocking off Shinsuke Nakamura. And by the way, Charles Robinson's not had a good week.
No, he is not.
Getting misted, getting beat up by Kevin Owens. Yike. That's rough.
Yeah, congratulations, LA Knight. Although the Shinsuke title reign felt
very forced.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if that was maybe they wanted to send him to Noah with the belt and have him, flash it there in Tokyo during New Year's or whatever, but it was a title reign that is kind of forgettable.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I think Shinsuke is one of the best on the planet, and it just seems like every time he starts to get some momentum, there's a roadblock that gets put up for the guy. I mean, I thought one of the worst decisions was not having him win the world championship at WrestleMania a few years ago against AJ Styles. Everybody loved the guy. He was ridiculously over. And AJ could have swallowed that loss. And what it would have done for Shinsuke would have been unbelievable. But, he's kind of stuck in the mid card.
Yeah, it was. But, well, I mean, what happens to Shinsuke now? I mean, does he go back to the, to the hangout and catering or what? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. Once again, it's, WWE and AEW both have a ton of riches sitting around the house, and trying to figure out what toys to play with is not the easiest thing to do in the world. That's for sure. So unbelievable. Well, before we head to break, just want to take a second to remind everybody, look, it's almost that time. Stu, you're going to be doing some traveling. We're all going to be all over the place here over the next 5 or 6 months. You got to go to the travelshark.com/Hoke Show and get those great hotel prices. There's some massive discounts here in Las Vegas right now. And the last thing you want to do is miss a really good discount in Las Vegas. This ain't 1984. So get on board, go to the travelshark.com/Hoke Show. It's powered by Priceline, and you are going to get an unbelievable deal on hotels here in Las Vegas and around the world. So hop on in there once again, the travelshark.com, and you got to get that /Hoke Show on there, or Marky doesn't get the bonus points. So if you could do that, we would certainly appreciate it. All right, let's take another break. And when we come back, oh boy, we're getting ready for AEW Revolution. Of course, AEW is also going down with Double or Nothing to Glendale, and they decided WWE to go over the top. So, we'll find out. Talk about that idea and a whole lot more. Stick around, everybody. We got more of the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN. We'll be right back.
This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
All right, let's get back to it. The best in pro wrestling news and entertainment here on the Mark Hoke Show on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the talk of Las Vegas, of course, on the Odyssey app, and we are also streaming the show as well. So make sure you check it out there on YouTube, X, and Facebook. And of course, while you're at YouTube, you can subscribe at The Mark Hoke Show. You can give us a follow on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and then on X at Mark Hoke Show. We would certainly appreciate that. Stu Myrick along for the ride from Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. Stu, how you doing, buddy? You hanging in there?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good.
All right. Well, some other... Man, there's just so much happening at the moment. And I do want to hit something that happened. We just saw announced that NXT is going to be doing a show over Double or Nothing, same day. So we're pulling this stunt again. How do you feel about WWE putting stuff right on top of AEW pay-per-views? Because I'll be honest with you, Stu, I don't think it's good for the fans. I don't think it's good for anybody. If you're maybe doing them at different times or something like that, that's one thing. But man, this is just, well, there's two ways to look at it. You can say it's really petty, or you can either say it's cutthroat business. One of the two. What do you think about WWE continuing to this practice of putting shows on top of AEW pay-per-views?
I'm gonna go with both. It is both petty and it is a cutthroat business. And that's the truth. Look, we heard, when AEW announced they're Double or Nothing on Memorial Day weekend in Arizona, and we had already heard the whispers about, okay, WWE may have something planned that weekend. Well, then we get the press release this morning about Saturday night's main event is going to be on the May 24th, NXT Battleground on May 25th, and then Monday Night Raw on May 26th. Okay, so basically NXT Battleground will be what goes head to head with one of AEW's bigger pay-per-views, which makes things interesting. WWE announced John Cena will appear on Saturday night's main event on May 24th at the Yuengling Center in Tampa, Florida. All right, so you got that for Saturday night. We have no clue what's going to be on NXT Battleground the following night because, they still got to get through Stand and Deliver. But you're going to have the NXT basically posting up on Peacock against Double or Nothing, which right now we have no clue what will be on that card. You get two pay-per-views counting Revolution before you even get to Double or Nothing. So it's a little hard to figure out, okay, well, which one's going to be the bigger of the two? Kind of hard to figure that out right now, 2-3 months in advance.
Yeah, I just feel like, everybody, because we're in such a different era too, that if somebody would have scheduled a WWF show on top of an NWA show, for example, you would have had to completely make your choice. Which one are you going to watch? Today, at least, if you can keep the social media off and not be on X all through one of the shows, you can watch one and then watch the other and you're cool. But I just don't see why you have to force that issue. Now, I'm sure part of it is WWE wants to screw over AEW. Got it. But it's NXT. Come on. And AEW is starting to get hot again, as we will be seeing this weekend. This is going to be a terrific show coming up here on Sunday from LA. But I just don't see the point of it. Why make fans choose? Just let everybody enjoy the product.
That's the funny thing you mentioned about, way back in the day. Think about, for instance, Starrcade was a Thanksgiving night pay-per-view.
Yep.
And then WWE comes around and decides to do Survivor Series. And they, back in the day, remember the whole closed circuit TV network that they would run. Well, the different histories have talked about how Vince would say, look, you got, your arena needs to run Survivor Series or you don't get WrestleMania or whatever. And Jim Crockett couldn't compete with that, and that's why they moved it. They moved it to December. But Starrcade was that was their big time, whether you talk about Flair for the Gold or you talk about the Night of the Skywalkers, or that was the signature event for Jim Crockett Promotions, and Vince forced the hand. So I'm with you. It's like let fans have them both. I think Tony Khan will put on a really good card for Double or Nothing. I don't think he'll have a problem against NXT, especially considering the fact that's 5 weeks after Stand and Deliver / WrestleMania weekend, and they're usually kind of in a lull.
Yeah, that's very true.
So AEW may be getting them at a good time.
Yeah, and and speaking of NXT, by the way, we got a pretty good one coming up here on Tuesday. Oh my God, this card, NXT Roadblock, that is going to be heading our way. I'm pretty excited about this one. We have that in TNA Sacrifice, and we'll talk about that too real quick before we wrap up this first hour with Stu Myrick and myself, Mark Hoke. We get Obafemi and Moose for the NXT Championship, and I can't begin to tell you how excited I am about this match. This is going to be a lot of fun to see those two monsters hook it up, and they can both handle it. Mm-hmm. So are you excited about this one?
Yeah, I am. This is, when you saw Moose come out on NXT, I was like, oh, what's Moose doing at NXT? And then, and then he steps up to Obafemi, and you see these two dudes, and it's going to be just a slobber knocker to, quote Jim Ross. And I'm all looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a fun match. I don't think titles are going to change hands, but man, there's going to be some beatings.
Who do you think? Who do you like better right now? If you had to pick one, put in one of your indie promotions that to lead the way, would you take Moose or would you take Obafemi?
Oh man, that's tough because Moose has the experience. He's got the pedigree, but Obafemi he's kind of the hot hand right now. That look and the menacing and everything. I'm not sure I'd do wrong with either one of them.
No, I don't think you would either. One thing that I love about Oba is he has grasped facial contortions and emotions in the ring. And, when I got to see him up close when NXT was just across the street over here at the UFC complex, man, when you watched Obafemi wrestle, it wasn't just what he was doing, because the power that man has is just awe-inspiring. But you could kind of see that he gets, when you put that expression of rage on, or you get that expression of, oh, I'm going to do something really cool and it's going to suck for you. I mean, he just seems to have that down already. And it's really impressive to watch. I mean, that guy is going to, when they finally get him up there on the main roster, he's going to be an absolute superstar.
Yeah, he's going to be fun to watch. It's I know he's going to be in NXT for a little while, but man, just imagine him against like a Braun Strowman.
Or a Braun Breaker.
Oh, good God.
Jeez. Or Roman Reigns. I mean, look, I'm not going to put that guy down. I mean, he has all the tools to get it done. And, and Moose is awesome too. And what a great guy. I've interviewed Moose a couple of times and he is unreal. And, but that match is going to be fun. And then we're going to get Jordan Grace and Roxanne Perez on this card. The Hardy Boys taking on Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Julia and Stephanie Vakura, even though I think, unfortunately, we're hearing Julia might be hurt. Mm-hmm. So that may be a inconclusive match there. Javon Evans, Ethan Page in a street fight. That's a pretty damn good card.
It really is. Obviously, the Hardys versus Fraxium, that's a fun match. That's going to be one of those two generations again. You got Hardys, who are arguably one of the greatest tag teams to ever lace them up in WWE, going up against the fresh faces in Nathan Frazier and Axiom. You mentioned Jordan Grace and Roxanne Perez. That's a rivalry that's been kind of simmering. So it'll be good to see that get hot again. You mentioned Julia and Stephanie Vacour. I want that to be good, although there is the chat about Julia might be working this one hurt. Ethan Page and Javon Evans. That'll be good from the standpoint of, it's the dastardly Ethan Page against the rising upstart, and Ethan trying to take the smile away again. I I would think they'll probably lean towards giving Javon Evans the win on that one, but it wouldn't shock me to see Ethan Page go over. I think, but yeah, all in all, this card is really really good, and and kudos NXT for putting on some really good matches.
No, and their roster is getting pretty deep down there too. I mean, they're going to have to consider moving some guys around, but I do find it kind of ironic that Ricky Saints, as we need to call him now, and Ethan Page are right back fighting for position in another organization because that we saw how that turned out the last time around, and I'd hate to see Ethan get pushed down the card or anything like that. But I was thinking about that the other day, that it's pretty funny that those two are right back where they were in AEW.
Yeah, and I know Ricky and Ethan are behind the curtain. They're good friends. I've actually hung out with them here in Austin. That is, I think we will eventually see that rivalry, and that's going to be just sit back with the popcorn and let that one play out, because it's going to be so much fun, because both guys just know how to turn it on. So I'll be all for that.
Yeah, it's going to be NXT is going to be very interesting over the next 6 to 8 months. And then we also have TNA Sacrifice coming up next Thursday. Let's see, that's on the 14th. So that's Friday night, because we're going to be having AEW here on Saturday. But some pretty interesting matches on there. Moose and Jeff Hardy for the X Division title. We got Mustafa Ali and Mike Santana. That is going to be fun to watch. We got the steel cage 10-man tag match with Hendry, Hardy, Matt Hardy, Elijah, Leon Slater, Nick Nemeth against the System and the Colognes, who have popped up. But of course, we got a sad Nemeth right now. He's not happy he's not going to be in that match, so we could have a little brotherly shove going on there. But this is going to be a fun show to watch too. I don't think it's as impactful as some of the other ones we're going to see over the next week, but still should be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, El Paso is going to get a great show there, and Moose and Jeff Hardy. That's one that's going to be very intriguing, because boy, those two styles are so different. And you mentioned the 10-man tag and everything. I mean, all in all, it's going to be a fun night of wrestling in El Paso, as TNA once again just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, it is going to be just. I don't know how we're going to watch all this wrestling, Stu. It's insane. It's insane. They've all lost control. But we're going to try and keep control of things here on the Mark Hoke Show, as that's going to do it for hour number 1. But hour number 2 is coming up, and we are going to take a long look at AEW, what's happened with those guys, and AEW Revolution coming up on Sunday. It is going to be unbelievable. But of course, if you'd like to take a second while you're waiting and give us a follow at Mark Hoke Show on X, and of course the Mark Hoke Show on Facebook and YouTube, we would appreciate it. And we'll see you guys on the other side. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Las Vegas. This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. 1 full hour of wrestling news, entertainment, and lots of Sin City surprises from inside the squared circle. Now, let's bring on the host. Here is Mark Hoke.
All right, let's keep it rolling. The best in pro wrestling news and entertainment. And I get the best people on here, too. It's just fantastic. Fortunately, Phil Stamper couldn't be with us, but we got Stu Myrick, who is the man. I mean, he rules Texas. We all know this.
Not yet, but, you know.
Couple more government checks, and you're all right with that job you got.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how much longer I stick out with that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, you're always welcome in Vegas, my friend. Whatever it takes.
I appreciate it.
Oh, you couldn't imagine picking up and moving here, could you?
No,
I doubt it.
No.
But it is a pretty cool place, especially WrestleMania coming up here. God, I can't believe we're only 5 weeks away
I know.
from the showcase of the Immortals. It's going to be something else. But we got some business to take care of right now with AEW Revolution. And we're going to take a look at that card. But, Stu, I wanted to kind of get your overall thoughts on what is going on with AEW. It seems like the mojo's coming back. They've been doing some very interesting things, especially with the venues, because I know Tony Khan was very much against, for a while, not booking the large arenas because he liked to get the marketing list and so on and so forth. But it's now he's shifted and he's going to some very unique places like they were in Sacramento. Now he's played Hammerstein and some other ones too that just have a very interesting feel. And then they're going to be here on the 15th at the Virgin Theater at the Virgin Hotel and Casino, which is an interesting venue to say the least. Very different. I can't remember when, there hasn't been any wrestling there. I don't know if Hard Rock ever did it when they had it, but AEW has really started to adjust some things on the business side and some cool stuff in the ring. And I think it's starting to get back on track. What do you think?
Yeah, it's the venues have definitely helped, and they're not trying to, it doesn't. You don't have the look of 3,000 fans in an 8,000 fan arena. Whether they've sized it down or whatever, they've done a good job with that. The other thing is the booking and the storytelling. And we have heard through various reports about Tony Khan getting more in the weeds as far as booking. That's what he kind of got away from it, and that's when they started to take that nosedive. He's back in it, and we're starting to see some stories take shape. Things that kind of make sense. I've been chastising it for the last several weeks. I'll see now. Death Rider things is starting to make sense now.
Wow! Wait, hold on! Whoa!
I know.
Did you just say that?
I know.
Did you really just say that?
Now, I'm still waiting because that's one of those where they still need to take the title off Mox. It's not going to happen on Sunday. Much as I'd love to see it, I don't think it's going to happen on Sunday. But it's gotten better. The women's matches are getting better. The mid card, stuff. I know there's been talk about merging the Continental and the international titles, which I think that would be a fantastic idea. There's way too many titles in AEW anyway. And what's funny is I go back to a year ago. So a year ago, I guess it would be this past Monday, I was sitting in the Greensboro Coliseum for the last AEW Revolution, Sting's final match. Man, I followed his career going all the way back to the days of the Blade Runners in Mid-South Wrestling. Saw them at a Mid-South Live event in Longview, Texas. And I think about that show. That show was it had some good matches, but everybody's focused on Sting for good reason. Now you fast forward a year. Darby Allin's hadn't been seen in weeks.
He's climbing a mountain.
Yeah, I guess he's still trying to climb that mountain. But I think they've got something going. I do want to see how everything shakes out on Sunday, because they got Dynasty coming up in April, and then Double or Nothing, and then it's on to All In at Globe Life Field. So I'm definitely on the positive side of I want to see this play out.
Yeah, I think things are starting to turn a little bit too, and there's always going to be I just don't get why some of these people just hate AEW so much. I don't get it when you have so much talent there. But you look at this card that we've got for AEW Revolution, and man, this is stacked. I mean, if you would have maybe put this card together 2 years ago when everything was really on fire, my God. I mean, one thing I think that you said about the mid-card matches stepping up, I mean, I'm looking down this card, and someone tell me where the weak spot is on this thing. Where is it?
As crazy as it sounds, maybe Okada and Brody King. And that's hard to say because it's Kazuchika Okada.
That's Okada.
One of the greatest champions ever out of Japan. I mean, yeah, there isn't a weak link. Now, I will say this. So they did this Revolution International Championship Series thing where it was like Orange Cassidy versus somebody, and that person went on to face Takeshita, and that winner would face Omega. Instead of just keeping it, everybody knew the match at Revolution was going to be Takeshita versus Omega. Why did you have to complicate it with this little series that ended up with Takeshita and Omega? You see what I'm saying? It was
yeah.
What was it? It was Orange Cassidy facing, who did he face last week?
Oh, geez, that's terrible. I'm blanking.
He won, ended up facing Takeshita. That's one of those things where it felt like, why are you doing this? Because you ended up with the match that everybody was going to get anyway.
Well, sometimes trying to give a guy a boost, maybe a little bit.
I don't think it did.
Well, like I said, you're trying to give somebody a boost.
Yeah, trying to, but it was, I don't know. I mean, and it's picking nits. It really is. I mean, because they were fine matches. Hangman Adam Page and MJF. That's going to be a barn burner. I do wonder how much the crowd will be behind Hangman, because he's done some dastardly things here recently, and he's just now starting to come around. So do the fans get behind him? Are they staying behind him? And then of course, and like I said, a lot of this is what happens coming out of Revolution.
Right. And that's what I'm going to be most fascinated to see on this. And you brought up MJF and Hangman Adam Page. And MJF is actually both of these guys are in a really weird spot because, man, this is a match for the ages. I mean, this could be one of the better matches of the year. But what happens to the loser? That's, to me, is the big question. I mean, who do you which one do you put over? And then whoever takes the hit in this match, this is kind of a fall down the card a little bit if you don't win this one. So I'm really torn on what I want to see happen here. It'd be fun to have a draw. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
You did say that out loud.
I did.
But AEW doesn't really do draws. It's usually some sort of a finish. I'll be honest, it would not shock me if MJF takes the loss here. Just because I think there is a story, there's a further story to tell about Hangman, his, whether you want to call it redemption or whatever, it just feels like this is Hangman's match to win.
Yeah, and it would be, to a point, it's a shame too, because if MJF loses this, he's finally starting to feel like MJF again. He's getting that swagger back. He's beating people and winning matches. And the top of this AEW group, trying to figure out who's going to be wrestling for the World Championship over the next, say, 3 months before we head to All In. Man, this is going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely crazy when you look at all these top stars that are sitting right there, and it's like, who do you go with?
There's some good choices. It's just got to be the right story. I'm still not crazy. I've come around a little bit on the Death Rider thing. I'm still not crazy about having Moxley hold on to that title until July. I think that could be too long, but the question is when and who.
Well, and this is a very fascinating time because of the main event of Revolution is Jon Moxley against Cope, and you're going to have two all-time greats going at it in that to start. But on the other side of it, there's another variable hanging around out there with Christian, and that crazy little contract. That, could you imagine, after a brutal match that these two guys are probably going to have, that Christian sweeps in and takes another championship away from Cope? I mean, it'd be unbelievable if they pulled that stunt.
It would be, but I think even that would be better than have Mox just beat Cope, which, Cope's gone through the Death Riders and had this, moment of respect with Wheeler Yuta, and Wheeler Yuta walks away. So we don't know what's going to happen. And I think they are setting it up for Mox to retain somehow. I think right now, I don't know, you've probably got this as well. The bidding odds as of yesterday, it's like Moxley at a 1-2 odds versus Cope at 8-5. So it was real close there. Now, again, the odds don't tell you who's going to win or lose. It's just where's the money being laid. But if they could make it where, Cope gets the pin, he wins the title, and here comes Christian Cage to cash in that title shot, because the patriarchy have felt kind of like an afterthought.
Yeah. And I think that's intentional too. I think that is completely intentional, that at some point Christian is just going to pop up and win that world title at some point, or at least cash it in. But I think that would be hilarious if he did it here. I mean, this Revolution card has so many weird little twists and turns that you could take it if you really wanted to. When you start looking at, for example, you got Swerve and Ricochet. coming up. And by the way, Ricochet is going to be on the show next week, so just want to let everybody know about that. So it's going to be fun. But you have that dynamic. The winner gets to be the number one contender. Well, Ricochet's been on this quest to get a title and prove himself. This character that he's developed has been a lot of fun. But then you have the Rock there of AEW right now, to use a term, I suppose, in Swerve Strickland. Mm-hmm. And I've been tossing and turning on that one too. Which is the guy that moves forward? I think I could see more of a possibility somebody doing something to Swerve that costs him the match, and maybe let Ricochet get his chance at the world championship. But man, I'll tell you, this is going to be, that match is fascinating too.
It is. Plus, you got the Nana wanting the Embassy Road back and all that. It feels like a Ricochet should win that one. But at the same time, Swerve is he's a solid hand, and he's one of those guys that Tony Khan can go to if he needs a heavy hitter in a big spot. Go to Swerve.
Yeah, and like I said, so I'm torn on who's going to win. Let me see if we pull the betting odds on that one real quick, because I am curious. I have those handy. Let's see.
I got it right here. There it is.
They've got Swerve as a huge favorite on this match.
Yeah,
huge favorite.
Swerve at 1-10, Ricochet 11-2. Again, this was as of yesterday.
That's a lot. I don't know. I mean, they're sending Ricochet out on tour here in Vegas, so I don't know. I might be tempted to throw a little coin down there on Ricochet. I might, but of course he did get the win the other night. That is one fun part about this card, and we have more matches we'll talk about here when we get into the next segment. But they're two really heavy hitters. You can't go wrong with either one. And, I don't know if this is cut and dry as betonline.ag is saying right now.
Yeah. Well, again, as we say, this is not saying who's going to win. This is where the money is lying for the bets that are coming in. This is what's shifting the odds. So, just because Ricochet is a big underdog on the betting line doesn't mean he couldn't come out with a win.
Well, that is very true. And by the way, if you'd like to get on betonline.ag and bet on a little bit of wrestling, hey, you know what? You can do that. And it's really cool. Just go to my website at markhokeshow.com and click on the banner. And we've got a great deal for you, Stu. That is a great deal. 50% matching bonus up to $1,000. So if you put $1,000 on the site, which you can do a whole ton of stuff on betonline.ag too. I mean, you can bet on rugby and politics and everything else along with, baseball, football, basketball, whatever you want to do. But you got to go to my website first, markhokeshow.com, click on the betonline.ag banner and get in there and, throw a couple bucks down on a couple of wrestling matches, have a little fun with it. Besides, just sitting there pulling your hair out, wondering what's going to happen. I mean, I know Stu can't do that at the moment, but that's okay.
Can't pull the hair out right now.
Yeah, we'll work on that. Maybe we should, because I'm a little thin in the back too. Maybe we should get a hair sponsor or something like that. Nothing wouldn't hurt.
Wouldn't help.
Wouldn't help. Oh my God. Well, with that, let us head to break.
Now let's return.
Oh, and if I'll hit the right thing there, I do apologize. We're kind of doing things a little bit differently today, so bear with me. But we'll get to it. And fortunately, I can edit things out, which is fantastic. Oh my God! I tell you what, let's try that. How about that one? There we go. All right, let's get out of here. Head to break here on the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the talk of Las Vegas, and streaming on the Odyssey app. Stu Myrick from Sports Guys Talking Wrestling joining me for this great show. We certainly do appreciate it. Stick around, everybody. We'll be right back.
Now, let's return to the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
And we return to the Mark Hoke Show, the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment, here on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the talk of Las Vegas. Also on that Odyssey app, AUDACY. The Easter Bunny will bring you more chocolate if you get the app. So make sure you do that. That's very important. And of course, we're streaming on YouTube, X, and Facebook. Appreciate you joining us there as well. And I appreciate Stu Myrick from Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on board as well. Thank you, Stu. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right. So let's take a look at the rest of the card. We talked about a few of these matches. We'll give it a good rundown here. Opening match. Hey, Big Boom AJ's back. We got a Costco killer on there, teaming with Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe. And Big Justice is going to be in the corner, too. Don't forget that. Against Johnny TV and MXM Collection. That'll be a fun little match. But I will say this. After what Big Boom did, AJ did the last time around, I'm curious about this. I want to see what he's going to do, if especially because he wrestled that last match with a broken foot. I'm curious to see what he does, because is there some potential here for this guy to maybe start stepping up a little bit in AEW?
Oh man, that's
He's a trained wrestler. That's I think that people sometimes don't realize that he's done this a lot before that last match.
Yeah, which is fine. I'm just not I'm not convinced. I think he's still going to be the special attraction, and and they'll probably get the win. MXN Collection still has Sammy Guevara's Ring of Honor Tag Team title belt, which they got to figure that out soon. But yeah, I don't see AJ becoming like a regular on AEW.
Well, never know. He does a good job, but it'll be a fun little opening match. Will Ospreay taking on Kyle Fletcher in a steel cage match, and this rivalry has been bubbling for a while since they had their little split. And Kyle Fletcher has gone from being, that's the guy and that kind of hangs around with Will, to becoming a really dominant force. He looks great, and this is going to be a real test for where Tony wants to take both of these guys. Because one thing that I do gripe about a little bit with Ospreay is he's taken a lot of losses, and I don't know if another loss, especially to Kyle, would be a good thing. I think at some point you've got to start pushing Will up the ladder.
I agree. I mean, I hate to think Kyle Fletcher, they want him as a big time heel, but at the same time, like you said, you got to start giving Will some wins. And I think it has to start with this one. I think he's got to get the win on this one. I think they can find a way to rehab Kyle Fletcher after taking a loss, because he's gotten over on Will Ospreay a couple times. So I think it would be better for Will to win this one and just have Kyle Fletcher do heel stuff. I think Will Ospreay's got to get the dub.
Yeah, and once again, this is the problem that Tony has, is he's got so much talent in that locker room, and you've got a guy like Fletcher who has emerged as being, I think, a lot better than everybody even knew, and you don't want to derail that either. So this will be fun to see who ends up getting the win in this one. We've got Okada and Brody King for the Continental Championship. I'd almost be up for an upset here. I don't think it's going to happen, but would anybody really complain if Brody King finally gets a singles title?
I thought they should have taken the title off Okada at World's End, and I was surprised that they didn't. So no, I would be all for Brody King getting his first singles title in this one. Like you said, I don't think it's going to happen, but it would really be nice, especially Brody King being there. He's a SoCal kid. I think it'd be fantastic for him to get a win there in his home stomping grounds.
Yeah, and Okada's kind of in the same place that Ospreay is too, when you really look at it. This guy is considered one of the top maybe 3 or 5 best wrestlers in the world, and he's kind of okay. No, it just feels like it's time to turn him loose too.
He bores me. It's this Okada thing. It's basically him saying bitch all the time. That's been, I mean, Okada's so much more than that.
Yeah.
And I think they need to get it away from him. I don't know if it means, you split him from the Elite eventually, which we don't know when that's ever going to come back or what, but right now Okada is he's boring me.
Wow. Well, maybe Brody King will go over, and then you won't be so bored with Okada anymore. We talked about MJF and Hangman Adam Page at length a little in the last segment, but just real quick, if you were putting one over, who is it?
Hangman.
Hangman. All right.
I think there's a bigger story to tell there. MJF is a heel. His story's pretty much set. He can just turn it on him and he's good. So I would definitely have Hangman go over.
Now his MJF story's not done yet, because if he happens to be in the press conference at the end of the night, he's going to be facing me down for the third time. So I wish him all the best. So I want MJF to win. I want him in there. I'm being selfish, Stu, but it's all good.
How dare you be selfish?
I know. God forbid I make a headline here or there. The Hurt Syndicate taking on the Outrunners. And, I've seen a lot of reaction on social media. What are the Outrunners even doing here? They're over. Are they going to get maybe buzzsawed in this match? Probably. But I'll tell you what, those guys have done such an incredible job getting themselves in the position they're in. They're selling a ton of merchandise. And if it was anybody else right now, other than the Hurt Syndicate, it was just so hot. I mean, the Outrunners might be winning the championships in this one, but I just can't see it happening, Stu.
I'm there with you. Like you said, if it was any other team, Outrunners would come out with the tag titles, but not against Hurt Syndicate.
I love the videos. I love those videos.
Oh, fantastic.
You and I know those videos very, very well. Shot in an 80s style.
I think
it's just awesome.
I think one of them was like a carbon copy of a Road Warriors workout video when they were still working the AWA.
Oh, you might be right. You might be right about that. Now I got to look that one up.
Yeah.
But those guys are just absolutely a lot of fun. Turbo Floyd and Truth Magnum. But they might be getting decked this weekend. And this is one, we were talking about what might be a lighter match on the card. Mercedes Moné and Momo Watanabe, and two great wrestlers. But are you excited about this one at all, Stu?
No, because they're not going to take title off Mercedes. This is the popcorn match. This is go up. I hate to say that.
Oh, isn't that unbelievable?
It's going to be a fantastic match, but nobody in their right mind believes Watanabe's coming out of there with the TBS title.
It's unreal what the place that Mercedes is in right now, because she is incredibly talented, but there's just something that's not clicking. And I don't know if some of the booking that's been happening has helped a lot. Now, the Harley Cameron thing got a lot of legs for sure, but now I feel like you kind of put the brakes on this. I mean, it would almost be better if she wasn't on the card than to do this to her.
I'm almost there with you. I think it, because it's just, you're basically telegraphing the end of the match.
Yeah. So, well, we'll see how it goes. We talked about Swerve and Ricochet. Oh boy. And we get the timeless Toni Storm and Mariah May. And we just had another incident between the two of them at the Queen of the Ring movie premiere where Mariah attacked Toni Storm. What a great piece of work that these two have done over the past year or so. I mean, unreal. And, I would imagine Tony's probably going to win this thing, but you almost hate to see this one stop. I mean, I've enjoyed the hell out of these two. I really have.
Yeah, this is definitely probably one of the better stories in AEW. And this Hollywood ending match with Tony and Mariah, I want to see it all. I want it, give me all the glamour and everything. I kind of hope maybe we're starting to see the end of this story, because they got to eventually move on.
Yeah.
You got to have more contenders. It can't just be Tony and Mariah, part 47. So
yeah, there'll be other ones. But yeah, so this probably will be it between the two of them, but they have just, in terms of drawing attention to as well, doing things like that, like they pulled this the other night here, just amazing. So get ready for that one. Falls Count Anywhere Hollywood ending match. Takeshita and Kenny Omega. And here we are again, Stu. Kenny Omega. And, we're kind of not talking about this that much. Isn't that crazy? It's Kenny Omega and Takeshita.
It is crazy. And I really do think they should put the title on Omega. Omega, I mean, dear Lord, to see what he can do now after a year plus off with diverticulitis, what he did in Japan. I mean, the man is made of something different than anybody else.
He's interplanetary.
He is still, even now, still one of the best wrestlers on the planet. And Tony needs to, strap the rocket again. Let Kenny Omega take that rocket ship as far as he can.
Yeah, and once again, we're seeing, you hate to see Takeshita's momentum where people are finally starting to really catch on to the guy. And, Kenny's, good chance Kenny's going to be putting a stop to it here. But then on the other side with Kenny, here we go again with, we're talking about Okada. We're talking about Will Ospreay. We're talking about guys like Swerve Strickland, MJF. There is such a logjam at the top of the pyramid in AEW. And I just don't know where they go. It's crazy, the amount of talent. That's why I was saying I'm so excited. I'm going to get to see this card live. It's going to be unreal.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a good problem to have, because it does build for stories, in the coming months.
Well, let me ask you this, Stu. Is having, just a little sidebar, is having too much talent there a good thing? Or, I mean, you have people to fall back on, but at the same time, is this wealth of riches that AEW has make things a lot more difficult for them when they're trying to decide which way to go?
I think it's just like in WWE. As long as you can book the stories, book them in, great storylines that can kind of run parallel, slightly intersect, but not really intersect. I think as long as you do that, why not?
Yeah, so that'll be a great one. And then, of course, we talked about the main event, Moxley and Cope for the World Championship, which should be a lot of fun for everybody to get a look at. So great card, man. Great card. And, this is, I think this is a really good springboard that AEW needs right now to keep things rolling, especially after this whole John Cena thing. It kind of put everybody away and thinking about him, and at least for a while, forgetting about this card. And, it shouldn't be that way. I mean, I hope everybody in AEW is going to kind of take it to heart a little bit and say, screw that, forget John Cena. We're going to put on a show.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. They need to make their stamp.
You bet. So, and speaking of making stamps, by the way, my good friend Mike Franco over at Off Grid Creations can stamp anything on anything. He can t-shirts, embroidery, advertising products, whatever you need, he can make it for you. And you definitely want to check him out at off-gridcreations.com. And he's going to be headed down to Revolution for you. I think this is going to be his first pay-per-view. So Mike better be ready to duck. It could be a little scary in there sometimes. But please check him out at off-gridcreations.com, creations.com, and he will be happy to do a consultation for you and make sure that everything you're doing is doing right. We got a sign here. Unfortunately, I didn't have the shirt with me today, but you can give him a call. 661-300-1115. 661-300-1115. 661-300-1115. All right. And when we come back, hey, we got somebody in the Hall of Fame, man. And I am thrilled to death to see this guy finally make it. And, a few other little stories here or there in the world of pro wrestling. So stick around, everybody. Stu Myrick and myself will be right back here on the Mark Hoke Show.
You're listening to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Vegas, The Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Now, here again is Mark Hoke.
All right, let's get back to it one more time and wrap this thing up. It is the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment here in Las Vegas, around the world. We really do appreciate everybody tuning in, downloading podcasts, all sorts of great stuff. Of course, don't forget the Odyssey app and give us a subscribe on YouTube. We would certainly appreciate it. Stu Myrick from Sports Guys Talking Wrestling with me. And the WWE just did an unbelievable job introducing their newest soon-to-be inductee. A great video with DDP, Cody Rhodes, and Lex Luger. And Luger is going to be in the 2025 class. And what a great way to do it, too, Stu, sending Cody over to DDP's place, and just the links between the three of those guys. And just, once again, just goes to show how great a time in wrestling is, that everybody's kind of together again. But, Lex Luger, who recently has just been able to start standing up and taking little baby steps after all this time, finally gets into the WWE Hall of Fame. And Stu, I can't understand why they didn't do it sooner. I really don't.
There's a small part of me that does, and it just has to do with some of the controversy surrounding Lex, especially after WCW, shut down. Lex himself has talked about being on a kind of a road of redemption. Got to see it last year at the Cauliflower Alley Club, where he talked about, in honoring his friend Sting, talking about his own journey. And now we're seeing DDP, who, man, DDP needs to get some, he's in the Hall of Fame, but man, he needs to be in every Hall of Fame for the work he has done to help folks crawl out of whatever it is. And now he's helping Lex try to gain some mobility back. I mean, it was really cool to see that. And then Cody going down there, and yes, the connection. I mean, you think about the rivalry that Lex had with Cody's father, and what his father did for Lex. And you think about what Lex, his career through Florida, and then Crockett and WCW and in WWE and everything. Just, it was a really cool moment to see that come together with the three of them standing there in DDP's home. So yeah, big time shout out to Lex Luger for going in the Hall of Fame.
And it's funny, when I think about Lex Luger, the first thing that actually comes to mind for me was when I first started watching wrestling and picking up Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and somehow my cable network, I could pick up Florida Championship Wrestling. And I got to see Luger right at the beginning, and you read about him in the magazines, and you're like, oh my God, this guy just looks like $1 million. Somebody that just was, you just felt like there was something really different about him. And, then he left and went over to Crockett, and, eventually became part of the Four Horsemen. I mean, just, it was such a phenomenal rise in his career to get that rocket on him that quick. And I just was amazed when, to see him finally go and do what he did. And, you think about WCW, the weird run in WWF where everything just kind of got screwed up at that SummerSlam where I still don't know why Lex wasn't the world champion after that. It was such a weird thing, but I know there was some backstage stuff going on, but
oh yeah,
the pop that he got when he beat Hogan in WCW, still one of the biggest ones in wrestling history. And then of course, like you said, the controversies too with, what happened with Elizabeth and then, had the issue with the neck that happened on the plane and all of a sudden he's done. Just a wild ride, but I do follow him on X and it's a very fascinating follow.
Mm-hmm.
Every day he's putting up a Bible verse and just thanking God that he's alive every day. And he's certainly changed his attitude from where it was maybe when he was, late 20s, early 30s. And, but it's just like he's one of those guys that I don't know if you could tell the story of wrestling without talking about the total package.
Yeah, you're right. And that's the thing. I mean, let's not forget the man he's a former horseman. He, just it's hard to believe the impact that he had made on the business. Again, thinking back to the whole, especially the days of Crockett and early WCW. I mean, he was vital. And so, well deserved to go in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And so right now he joins a class with Triple H and Michelle McCool. So that is going to be, and we've obviously got a lot more coming. I heard rumors about earthquake and typhoon, the natural disasters, possibly getting in. So that would be pretty fun. I mean, John Tenta is just that guy going through his career in pro wrestling. Wow.
Yeah,
absolutely. Wow. You probably know a lot more about John than I do, to be honest with you.
It's probably one of the most underrated big men ever to strap him up. And you look at his days, you look at his days in Japan,
mm-hmm.
where he was just a monster there. To have him and Earthquake, Fred Ottman, go into the Hall of Fame as the natural disasters, I think is well deserved for both men. But man, and think about the legacy John Tenta has carved out, throughout history. I just, definitely, if that rumor does come to fruition, good on them.
Yeah, and I hope it does. Great, fun tag team, and Tenta especially. He had a huge feud with Hogan. People forget about that. I mean, Hogan was wrapped up like a mummy after that one. I don't know if you remember it or not, Stu, but it was, but he came off as a really viable threat to Hogan, and that was a lot of fun. So, it'd be pretty cool to see those guys getting into the Hall of Fame as well. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Evolve show. And unfortunately, this would have been right up Phil's alley. But the Wednesday night show where we're featuring some of the WWE ID performers. How you feeling about that, Stu?
I saw a little bit of that, and I guess I need to delve into it a little more before I, have a feeling one way or the other. It's got potential there, and then of course the reviews. I've read the reviews about how they'll tell some of the backstory of Evolve, going back, the under Gabe Sapolsky and the likes of Cody and John, Drew McIntyre competing in Evolve and trying to bring that forward to what we're seeing today. But I think it's another outlet to see these, performance, the men and women that are working in the PC right now. It's another outlet for them to show what they have and maybe get a spot somewhere.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting show. I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. And I do also want to take a second and talk about this card we got coming up. This is going to be one of the biggest indie cards of the year right here in Las Vegas. With the it's the Mecca 10 show with Future Stars Wrestling, but it is the benefit for Bay, and they're apparently going to be announcing some more names here in the next couple of days. But we've got Karrion Kross, we've got Swerve Strickland, Brian Cage, Trey Miguel, of course, all really good friends to Chris. And I'm getting the feeling that Chris might be there. I don't know yet, but just the way he's talking and stuff, it's likely he's going to show up. But you know, what a great way to pull the wrestling world together. I wish they could do more of this kind of stuff, but obviously this is under a little more tragic circumstances. But Chris is coming around, he's on his feet, and it just goes to be a real testament to how much these guys loved Chris, that they went into the offices and said, I'm doing this show. We're going, and that's going to be it. And this is going to be one hell of a night.
Yeah, it really is, and I hope it gives what it can to help Chris out and keep him on the road to at least having a good life, even if it means not being in the ring anymore. Just being able to lead a good standard of life, and to have all these people come together, show their love and the support. It speaks to the wrestling community. It speaks to what good the wrestling community can do. And all the best to Chris.
And I'm going to tell you something. Chris Bay will be back in the ring. I believe that with all my heart. I mean, he doesn't seem like Chris is such a mentally focused guy. I mean, I remember when I had him on a show, and it was just funny that we talked about his diet, and I was asking Ace Austin, I'm like, what could you give Chris Bay that would absolutely flip him out if you put it in front of him? He said a chocolate bar. I mean, Chris is so disciplined on his diet and everything else, and his exercise, that's probably what saved his life, because if he wasn't in the shape he was in, he might not be here right now. But I'm just wondering what he's thinking of his tag team partner, Ace Austin, teaming up with the Rascals here, coming up on Sacrifice. That I'd like to hear that conversation in a promo.
That would be an interesting conversation for sure.
No doubt. So, Stu, what do you have going on down there? I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening. We're going to be seeing all these independent pro shows coming up here in Las Vegas. What do you have going on down there in Texas, brother?
It's we're keeping it going. Of course, Road Wrestling Association coming up on March. I should look it up. I should know it, you would think. March 23rd, I believe, is Final Reckoning. Have a great card lined up. Should be a lot of fun. Of course, eyes are probably heading towards Vegas. I know New Texas Pro Wrestling is going to be part of one of the big conglomeration cards there, as well as Texas Wrestling Cartel out of the Corpus Christi area. But yeah, Road Wrestling Association doing really well. Inspire Victorious just had a big show. They've got another one coming up in a couple months, and so hey, wrestling in Austin doing really well.
Yeah, and tell everybody a little bit about your show too, brother, because if you're enjoying this show, I'm sure you're going to enjoy Stu's show as well.
Yeah, Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. You podcast episodes usually drop about midweek. Me usually sometimes with somebody, whether it's Mike Sempervive or Rick Ucchino or Bill Pritchard or who knows, I may be bringing on Mark Hoke. And we'll have fun. We'll talk about what's happening in wrestling, and we'll just, have a good old time. So check it out, Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts.
All right. And I just want to remind everybody too, if you're going to be at Revolution, I'm going to be there too. So I'm going to be flying around there. Look for me. I'm going to try and do something stupid to draw attention. hopefully not cause myself any pain, but it'll be all right. But looking forward to getting down to LA and seeing all our LA fans down there again. And then don't forget, coming up next Saturday on the 15th, AEW Collision is going to be at the Virgin Hotel and Casino in the Virgin Theater. That is going to be a wild night, especially being the Collision after Revolution. And we're going to have a Ricochet on the show as well. We're going to be sitting down with an interview with him on Friday. Hopefully a couple of you guys might be available and hop in and have a little fun talking to Ricochet. We'll see if he's going to be the number one contender after Revolution, or he's going to be coming in here and we'll just do a little Fly Eagles Fly and not talk about that match. Did you like the Eagles hat, by the way, you wore, Stu? It was pretty nice. Good hat. No, come on, Stu. Oh, man.
No, sorry.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the Talk of Las Vegas one. Thank you, Stu, for coming along and helping me out here. We do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Everybody loves you here in Vegas, brother. Everybody I talk to says, that's Stu Myrick. He's something else. So be glad.
I appreciate the love.
You got it. All right. Don't forget to follow us on X at Mark Hoke Show, Facebook, The Mark Hoke Show, YouTube, The Mark Hoke Show, markhokeshow.com. And make sure you check out all of our great sponsors that we've got on the show as well to help try to keep us going here. We will see you guys next week on the Mark Hoke Show, as we'll be wrapping up Revolution and all these cards that are happening this week. It is going to be an unbelievable week of pro wrestling, and we'll bring it all to you coming up next time on the Mark Hoke Show. We'll see you next week, everybody.